Hey, beautiful peeps. I pray that all is well with you on today. I just want to give you a quick message. So just a kind of heart-to-heart talk that I wanted to have with you. Also sharing my testimony. So I was, looking at the internet, and I saw an interview that BuzzFeed did, and they did one about skin complexions in different cultures. So they had black people, they had Indian people, they had Dominican people, people of all races and all cultures, but they had darker skin. And they talked about the adversity of, growing up being darker skin in America. And it made me cry. And I thought about the adversity that I had, and they talked about how they tried to overcome those adversities, some by blending in and associating with, European cultures to make people think that, okay, because I'm like you, you should be able to accept me. Some people just, over time they got self-confidence in themselves and they started to embrace their skin complexion. And they realized that it was a blessing and not a curse, as many people in their lives have seen it. I saw one lady who said that, she's Indian, I believe she was Dominican, if I'm not mistaken. And she said that, she wanted to be an angel. In a parade, but because of her skin complexion, nobody wanted her to be the angel. But she told her mom, she said, no, I'm going to be an angel. And she was a little girl, and they did make her the angel, and she was the only dark-skinned angel. And it really touched my heart, so much so that it made me want to discuss adversities that I've had. Now, in my life, I've had struggles, really big battles with my weight, and also with my self-esteem and with my self-worth. And growing up as a child, I never really thought that I was worth it, because there was a huge weight placed on me, or a huge insecurity about my weight, because every time I would go to a family reunion or any sort of family get-together during the holidays, they would always say, oh, you're so pretty, but you're fat. You really need to lose some weight. You really need to get a hold of that weight. And they would say this to a little girl who'd be about 5, or I was about 6 years old. So in my mind, I was shaping myself up to believe that people would only embrace me if I was smaller. And so throughout the years, it was like a psychological trick in my household. And my mother, she meant no harm, but she would get on me about losing weight, I guess because she wanted me to be accepted or whatever. And so she would, she helped me gain the weight, because I was spoiled, and they used to give me anything that I wanted. And a byproduct of me being spoiled was me eating a lot of bad things, which helped me to gain weight. And so I was angry at my mom for teaching me these bad behaviors, but then I grew a hardness in my heart towards my mother, because she not only helped me to get that bad problem, but then she made me feel horrible about what she had created in me. So she would say to me, we would have these big dinners, and she'd be like, girl, you need to lose some weight, but do you want some more fried chicken? Girl, so that played with my psyche. That made me think that if my own mother didn't accept me, who would ever accept me in this life? Now, my father, on the other hand, he was always different. My dad would tell me all the time, he was like, girl, you're beautiful. And my dad would even be like, girl, you sexy girl. It's a joke. It's nothing bad. He'd be like, girl, don't care what nobody think about you. You look good, be confident, and be strong, and don't care. That's how my dad was. But my mom, because she had self-esteem issues herself, she essentially projected those down on me. So I grew up as this woman who was very insecure, and my household that I grew up in was kind of rough, because my parents, they fought a lot. So it just made me, it made me insecure, also anxious, also fearful. So I had all these things, these bags that I had attached to myself throughout my life. And when I got into the world as a young woman ready for college, I was lost, but I was very shy. I didn't really want to speak to people. I had gifts and I had talents, and I remember people would help me along the way. Like one of my teachers, she believed in me, and she helped me fill out my college application. And, just people along the way saw goodness in me, so they spoke to that goodness. They spoke to that encouragement. And I'm saying all this to say that my heart was hardened towards my mother. And I had some issues towards my dad too, because we grew up in such a hectic household. My heart was hardened. I had low self-esteem. But in my life, I had to realize that if I was going to be able to move on with my life, if I was going to be able to make really good, healthy decisions, I had to live from a place of forgiveness. I had to, in turn, forgive my mother for some of the bad decisions that she made in terms of teaching me habits towards food. I had to forgive my dad because my mother and my father, they would argue a lot. And so it created a hectic household, which allowed me to have anxiety because I didn't know what I was going to be walking into as a child. One day they would be happy, the other day they would be fighting. And I know I'm saying this while I'm smiling. It's no joke. It's serious to me. But it's just like I can't help but smile because God's grace and God's love and God's forgiveness and God's peace is so good, and He allows you to overcome all that tried to take you out in this life. And so when I walked into college as a young lady, I was very fearful. I was very scared, very anxious, but I would always try. I would always try to get better, always try to figure a way. Really, the Lord had made me a fighter. I've been a fighter in so many ways. And I walked into college bitter. And I had a couple of nervous breakdowns. And I'll go into that in another video. There's so many things that happened to me in this life. It's like I couldn't possibly do one video to tell you my life's testimony, because there are so many things I had to overcome in this life. One video would not do my life justice, to be honest with you, as I'm sure many of you out there have been through so many things. But to make a long story short, I began to embrace the Lord. I have a praying grandmother who prayed for me. My mother also prayed for me. My mother didn't mean me any harm. It's just that she was struggling with her self-esteem. She struggled with food, and she all happened to pass that down upon me. She didn't mean me any harm. It was very hurtful in my life. I ballooned up to almost 500 pounds, 490 pounds, 485 pounds. In college, I entered college probably around 315, 320. And, I entered in college, but I had a boyfriend. When I went to college, shout out to Brandon. We're still cool. He was my first boyfriend in college, and even in high school and stuff. I never had a problem with dating and stuff. It's just that I shouldn't have dated because my self-esteem was so low. And, this guy loved me. He showed me a love that I had never felt like I knew. And I known on this earth. Like, my parents loved me, of course, but it was so much dysfunction that I could barely see their love. But he loved me for no reason. He didn't have to love me. He cared about me. He really, it was like a godlike love that he was passing on to me, because it was an unconditional love, and it was an unconditional care. And it was like puppy love. You really sincerely loved. And so him loving me was a blessing in my life. Him kind of being there with me throughout the years of college was a blessing. And throughout my life, I always had this thing, I always prayed for confidence. I always prayed for self-esteem. I always prayed that the Lord would make me a strong and a powerful woman of God. I always prayed for these things. And when I didn't sincerely love God, when I didn't sincerely want God, when I didn't sincerely know God, I always prayed that I would have that love one day for Him, that I would want to know Him one day, that I would want to have a deeper relationship. I prayed for a lot of the things that I have now. And I prayed that I prayed that the Lord would enter my heart and my heart wouldn't be hardened towards my mother, towards my family, towards anything that occurred in my life. And I realized that over time, the Lord healed and cleansed my soul. Now, it didn't happen in one big swoop. It didn't happen in one occurrence for me. It was like through different trials, he showed me different things, and I was able to gain wisdom and courage and self-esteem. And I was realizing that no matter who hurt me in this life, I had the Holy Spirit. I had the Most High in order to make it through. And I realized that throughout this life, I was never really going to be truly alone. It was always going to be legit me and the Most High. I realized that, whether I got married, whether I had kids, which and I will, things, no matter what kind of desires that I had for this life, that I was always going to be genuinely loved, genuinely needed, genuinely respected, and genuinely pushed to be greater in this life. So college, some things happen, to join a sorority, and you get a little crazy, you get a little ego, you think you're all that. And, me and my boyfriend broke up. It was just a lot of life lessons. I was going through growing pains. I was understanding who I was. I was trying to figure myself out, and I was still lost. And then I got out on my own after college, and I got my first corporate job. Like I've been working since I've been 16 years old, but I got my first corporate job. And throughout the years, as I stated before, it was just a pattern of being able to go through different trials and tribulations, because people can tell you the right thing, the right way to go. They can tell you the right things to do. But a lot of times we're hard-headed. A lot of times we're stubborn. And a lot of times we just simply don't want to listen. But when a situation occurs in our own life and we face a trial or a tribulation, and then sometimes when the Lord allows us to experience certain things alone, at that point that will grow. I'm saying all this to say that all of us have trials and tribulations to make it through. All of us have difficulties in this life, but we must put our faith in Christ, and we must deal with everything that we have going on. A great way to deal with that is surrendering everything to the Lord, is reading the Word of God, and figuring out what are your strengths in this life. What gave me confidence is when I first started doing poetry, when I first started going out speaking. I didn't know anybody. I would go to these events by myself, and that gave me confidence because I would leave the stage. Sometimes people would be crying. Sometimes people would be cheering and giving me standing ovations. And I didn't have any self-esteem at the time, but it made me feel like, wow, I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a reason. And then when after going through that and getting into the poetry world, I really wanted to work on myself. I really wanted to lose this weight. And the Lord, you can go back. I'll attach my testimony video on how I started my weight loss journey and stuff like that. And the Lord dealt with me about that. That was very hard because the weight represented all the pain that I had been through in my life. All the struggles with different rejections I had from men, from people, from women, from family members, from people telling me that I wasn't worth anything, for people just looking at me and passing me up, for people judging me, for people hating on me. And I was like a coward, honestly, because I had been through so much pain. The pain had kind of like wore down on me until the Lord was saying, Constance, I want you to be a fighter. I want you to be a fighter, girl. You got to fight. Every morning you get up, you have to fight. Every morning you get up, you have to pray. Every morning you get up, you have to like kick. You have to fight, and you have to be empowered. And then when I started working out, I started boxing, and I became a fighter literally. Then my posture changed because I was lifting weights, and they taught me how to lift weights appropriately. They taught me how to work out appropriately, and my whole disposition changed. And ever since then, I've been a fighter. And then fighting physically helped me to fight emotionally. Helped me, me deciding to fight for every bit of my life. I wanted to fight for my health. I wanted to fight for my self-esteem. I wanted to fight for my self-confidence. And I fought through prayer initially, and then the Lord told me other ways to fight, which would build up my confidence and build up my self-esteem. I'm saying this today. You know, it's kind of short. I know it's 15 minutes. So oh, Lord, 15 minutes, you know. But I'm saying this today to say that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And whenever you are down, whenever you are fearful, whenever you feel rejected, whenever you feel hated on in life, know that that's an attack from the enemy, and you have to cast it back down to the pits of hell immediately. Don't play with the enemy. Don't give him no room in your life. Don't give him any victory. He has no room. Don't give him anything. Turn away from sin. Turn away from idolatry. Turn away from hating on yourself. Because first of all, let me tell you something. Hating on yourself is one of the worst things, because you can hate on yourself worse than other people can hate on you. Stop hating on yourself. Start loving yourself. People get mad at me sometimes when I say love yourself. But listen to me. This is the way it works. You love Christ. You love the Father. You love the Most High. And then because you love him so much, he already loves you in abundance. He blesses you to in turn love yourself. Because you are loving yourself, you have self-respect, you have dignity, you have confidence. It's a cycle and abundance of love. Let me tell you, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to love on yourself. It's a good thing to respect yourself. It's a good thing to treat yourself with dignity and confidence and strength and motivation. You develop this by prayer, or your prayer life. You develop this by reading his word. You develop this by getting out there and doing the things that he has called you to do. And you might be fearful at first when he calls you to do certain things, but let me tell you something. It's like a bike. You get on that bike, you might have treadmill, training wheels first, and then you're gonna be going fast. You're gonna be, driving you're gonna be riding one of those mountain bikes. So let me tell you something. Believe in the Lord. Trust in our Father, even if it just appears through this life that it's you and him. Trust in him. Believe in him. Have faith in him on a moment by moment basis. Then you will start to believe in yourself, and you will be empowered to do everything that he's called you to do. Have faith, people. Don't worry about what people say about your skin complexion. Don't worry about what people say about your weight. Don't worry about what people say about your height. Don't worry about what people say you have a disability. So what? You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. You are not weak. You are not disabled. You are not lacking. In every area where there is a lack, there is Christ to fill up that hole, to fill up that lack, which empowers you to do whatever you need to do in this life. Believe in the Most High God and have faith that he is with you, that he loves you, that he wants more for you. But you have to believe it for yourself. You see, the thing about the Lord, he gives us a choice. He don't make you do anything. He gives you a choice. But let me tell you something. Life with him is sweet, brothers and sisters. It's sweet. If you don't take anything else from Sister Constance, know that life with the Most High God is sweet. So I'm just saying this to say, I know that there may be some people that watch this video that may be struggling with their self-esteem, may be struggling with who they are and where they're going in the future. They may be questioning, they may have anxieties, they may have fears, they may have all kinds of things rolling through their head. But I want you to know is when you get silent and you give everything to the Lord and you start praying, you got to pray these things away. You got to cast these demons out. You got to get serious. And you can't play and you can't let up, and you got to fight with all the might within you. You know, once you start fighting, that stuff is going to let up. Believe, brothers and sisters, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Shalom, family. Shalom.